Peace be with you. Salamun alaikum. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very grateful to God for giving me the blessing of being with you in this city, and I think it is a sign of our deep friendship with our Mennonite friends, and it's almost 17 years that I know the Mennonites. That is when I went back to Qom after I finished my PhD. So in 2001, we had a couple, Mennonite couples in Qom, which was part of exchange program between MCC and our institute. And then I was involved in the second Shia Mennonite dialogue in 2004, and then afterwards. And then we had lots of programs together, lots of exchange. And I think it was 2011 when, with my wife, we took a group of women from Qom to Winnipeg, and Donna and her husband were our hosts. And then we came to know them more. And then about maybe it was 2 years ago that we received initially the invitation for another time, which was of course postponed. And as soon as I heard from Donna that Muslims, Christians together have formed a committee and they invited me and Professor Harry Hubner to come here, I said I should accept this invitation. When people have united themselves and sent a joint invitation, I cannot say no. So maybe even I didn't think about it 5 minutes. I said, I will come. I was very much hopeful that we would be here with Harry, who is a great friend of mine, but for circumstances that are not in our hands, he was not able to be here, but he's with us in a spirit, and maybe he's watching us because he asked for the link for all the programs, but this program is online, so maybe he's watching us. So we say our greetings to Harry and we pray for his fast healing. But we have also, instead of Harry, very good friends, Pastor Doug and also Irma and Chris, who are going to join us. They will be here. So thanks to God, it has worked out that still we are able to have this program. Maybe there is a wisdom in what has happened. So we welcome whatever is the plan of God. The topic is a very important topic for both of us, Muslims and Christians. I am grateful to very beautiful and informative presentation that we heard from Pastor Doug, and for sure for Christianity, the self-sacrifice of Jesus is very important, and not as theology, but also very important part of every person's journey towards God, to be ready to follow that example of Jesus in giving everything back to God. So what I try to do is to give you a little introduction to Islamic understanding of suffering and volunteering or welcoming some kind of suffering in the form of sacrifice. And then I will try to relate it to the prophets and to Imam Husayn in particular, as not a prophet but as an Imam who follows the path of the prophets. The Quran tells us that when Adam was asked to go to heaven, with Eve, right from the beginning, God warned them about Satan trying to deceive them. And the Quran says, for example, God said, إِنَّ هَذَا لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. He is an enemy which is clear in his enmity. And you have to be careful. Don't listen to him, because he would try to do something with you so that you would lose your position here and you would go out. But the Quran says, لا يخرجنكما من الجنة فتشقى. Don't let Satan send you outside so that you would suffer. So our suffering starts with being away of heaven. So being on this planet, being this type of life that we experience, is mixed with suffering. We cannot have a life totally free from pain or suffering in this planet. The Quran also says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have made human beings in pain and in difficulties. So whether we like it or not, we are going through different stages of ease and difficulties, health and illness, rich and poverty, being welcomed or being rejected. There are lots of ups and downs in this life. And we as believers should be ready for these changes. We should not lose our hope. We should not lose our faith when we go through these changes. Sometimes we read in the Bible and also in other places that some people have, for example, the story of Job. When he was suffering, some people thought that if he suffers, it's because he has done something bad. Some people think that anyone who is suffering must have committed a sin or mistake, and they try to blame them. But this is not true. Yes, sometimes people suffer because they have not been careful, they haven't planned things properly, they didn't work hard, they were not moral. But this is not explaining everything. You can be doing things very well. You can be a very good person who also works hard and plans everything, consults, takes advice, studies before making a decision, but still you may suffer. There is no reason to think that whoever suffers has done something wrong. Indeed, we have something more than this. Not only suffering is not a sign of being a bad person, but we have even something more in Islamic literature, that actually the people who are closer to God, they should expect more suffering. This is a higher level of suffering. There is a poem in Farsi, and the poet says, whoever is closer to God in this feast in which lovers of God are together, whoever is closer to God, he would be given the wine of suffering more. So imagine, because in the mystical literature, wine is a symbol, an icon for love. So whoever is closer to God, jam bala bishtarash midahand. They give him more of the wine of suffering. To the extent that we find in hadith, Islamic narrations, that أَشَدُّ النَّاسِ بَلَاءً الْأَنْبِيَاء. The greatest problems happen to the prophets, messengers. ثُمَّ الْأَمْثَلُ فَالْأَمْثَلُ. Then whoever were closer to the prophets in rank, then they were suffering the second. So anyone who is in a high level of love for God, high level of piety, should be expecting that somehow he would face some difficulties and suffering and pain. This is very natural. And among the prophets, our prophet is a clear example that he suffered a lot, to the extent that he says, "Ma udhiya nabiyyun mithla ma udhit." No prophet was annoyed and hurt like me. He suffered a lot. If you know the history of the life of the prophet, you know that he lost his father before he was born. Soon he lost his mother when he was a young child. He was under the care of the grandfather. Then he lost his grandfather. He had very good wife, but then he lost his wife. And when he started his mission, then he had to go through lots of hardship. His followers were tortured, were killed. For 3 years they were under embargo, sanction. No one was selling Muslims anything. No one was even allowed to take money from them and give them food, let alone just helping them. So lots of difficulties. And then in Medina, lots of attacks against Muslims. So he suffered a lot. Then there were hypocrites inside Medina who pretended to be Muslims, but they were not Muslims. Even they tried to assassinate the Prophet. They built a mosque in Medina to trouble the Prophet. So he went through lots of hardship. Why? Because the position that he is going to occupy is a position that cannot be reached without going through difficulties and hardship. So we have this idea that those who are closer to God, they may suffer more. They should expect more suffering to come. They shouldn't volunteer for suffering. I don't say, okay, I go outside and look for troubles and problems. I don't volunteer, but I should be prepared. I should be expecting that problems would come, because we are people who have a higher aim. We are not interested only in having a, reasonable, worldly life. We are aiming at something higher, and this world is not capable of offering everything. We need to be getting a spiritual energy, and a spiritual energy, I am afraid, wouldn't come by eating and drinking and sleeping and going for holidays. It comes with hardship. It comes with challenges. Sometimes I say, if you want to have, for example, commandos, you cannot have commandos by giving them 5-star holidays. You have to send them to forests and jungles and say, no food, no drink, no comfortable bed. You have to be here, you have to look after yourself. Then those of you who manage to pass all these challenges successfully, then we may accept you as people who are qualified. So this world cannot be a comfortable place for the people who want to aim at something higher than this world. If you want something higher than this world, so you should find that this world is too little for you. You should find that there is, limited space for you. So you have to then try to go higher. But if everything here is perfect and you have very comfortable life, then you will think that why I cannot be always here? Why I should think about something more? So this is about suffering. Much more to say, but very briefly, it's about suffering. But what I want to say is that there are people who have even a higher understanding of the opportunities that God has given humanity in this world. And in particular, we are talking about prophets, messengers, saints. I would like to refer to the beginning of a dua that we have. We Shia Muslims, in addition to our daily ritual prayers that we have, we also have regular supplications that we recite. And many times we try to do them together. So one prayer that it's very common for the Shia to recite on Friday, every Friday morning, is we call Dua al-Nudbah. And this prayer is actually called Nudbah because Nudbah means lamenting, crying. Means we remember the tragic events that happened to the saints. And because of that, we also try to have empathy with them and to connect to them. The beginning, the very first lines of this prayer is about messengers. Allahumma lakal hamdu ala ma jara bihi qada'uk fi awliya'ika alladhina istakhlastahum li nafsika wa dinik. O God, all praise is due to you because of the decree that you have made with respect to your saints, your friends, that you chose them for yourself. Istakhlastahum linafsika wa dinik. So there are people that not only they are pious and therefore they go through these challenges and try to be patient and try to, face these challenges with hope and patience. No, there is something more. There are people that God has chosen them for Himself and His religion. Istakhlastahum linafsika wa dinik. So there are people who have a mission from God. So for these people, then it's not only suffering, it's also readiness for sacrifice. إذ اخترت لهم جزيل ما عندك من النعيم المقيم والثواب الجزيل وشرطت عليهم الزهد في درجات هذه الدنيا الدنية وزخرفها وزبرجها. You chose them for yourself. We believe that God chose Jesus for Himself. God chose Moses for Himself. God chose Abraham for Himself. Because God saw in them something which was very special. And that is, in my understanding, the fact that they were selfless. They had no ego. They were not thinking about something for themselves in contrast to others. These were perfect mirrors reflecting the light of God. If there is any ego in me, I cannot reflect God completely. I would reflect myself. So, God chose them for Himself, for His message, and there was a condition. وَشَرَطَّ عَلَيْهِمُ الزُّهْدِ. You made a condition that they should not be attached to this world, this worldly life. Something that we find very
clear in Islamic scripture about Jesus is that Jesus was an icon, a symbol for zuhd, for not being attached to this world. He had as we just heard, we also have the same one here. He had very, very simple life. Of course, just to have simple life is not a perfect, reason, because there are people who have simple life, but maybe they always dream of having a very luxurious life. But Jesus chose to have simple life. Not that he didn't afford. Jesus was not attached to this world. Abraham was not attached to this world. And then there is something very deep, theological point in this supplication, that we say to God, when you knew that they are going to be loyal to this condition, then you brought them closer to you and you promoted them. علمت منهم الوفاء به فقبلتهم وقربتهم وقدمت لهم الذكر العلي. So when God in eternity knows what response these people give, so from before even their birth, He praises them and He raises their position. Because God knows in eternity what type of response this person is going to give. So there are people that God has chosen them for Himself. And these people give everything to God. Not only when some tragedies happen, they are patient. No, they actively look for opportunities to give, to offer what they have, so that they can bring more good to this world. They can reflect the light of God more. And an example that we have is Imam Husayn. For us, Imam Husayn is a perfect example of offering whatever you have to God. Of course, whatever we have is from God, and we should acknowledge that we are giving Him back His own trust. It's not that, we have something from our own pocket and, we are giving to God. We cannot really give anything to God unless we have already received from Him. But it's very important to be ready for giving everything that you have to God. I would like to refer to a poem in Farsi about the story of Imam Husayn and love. This is a very famous poem, and interestingly, this poem is made by a king, Nasruddin Shah, one of the kings of Iran from Qajar dynasty. Before Pahlavi dynasty, we had Qajar dynasty. And this king was a person who also had the habit of making poem. I am not endorsing what he did, but this poem is beautiful. And he had a love for imams. So he says, عشق بازی کار هر شیاد نیست. این شکار دام هر صیاد نیست. He says, to be a lover is not something that every liar can do. Many people claim, you say, I love. But he says, this is not something that every person can do. This is not the prey that every hunter can hunt. It's very difficult to hunt love. عاشقی را قابلیت لازم است. طالب حق را حقیقت لازم است. If you want to truly love, you need to have qualifications. If you want to be truthful, you have to match and resonate with the truth. It's not that every person can say, I am with the truth. I am a lover of God. No, it's not easy. Then he says, عشق از معشوق اول سر زند تا به عاشق جلوه دیگر دهد. This is very much related to the issue of grace that we also have in Christianity and in Islam. So how someone becomes a lover of God? He says love starts with the beloved first endearing himself to the lover. So the beloved tries to draw the attention of the lover to himself. And then love starts. But this process of drawing the attention of the lover can get so high that the lover forgets himself completely. تا به حدی که برد هستی از او. A true lover no longer thinks about himself, just thinks about the beloved. In Farsi mystical literature, we have couples who are examples of love. Of course, it looks like romantic love, but it's examples for love for God. And one case is Layla and Majnun. And it is said that Majnun had so much of love for Layla, the woman, that when he was killed and his blood came out of the body, the blood wrote Layla. Means in every drop of the blood of the lover was the impact of the beloved. And again, about the issue of suffering, it is said that one day Layla was giving food out, and every person was going and taking a container so that they receive some food. So Majnun also went and stood in the queue with his pot, and hopefully he also can get food from his beloved. And normally the beloved also doesn't show that much attention. One thing common is that the beloved normally, to add to your thirst, doesn't show that much attention, tries to ignore you. So Layli used to give food to everyone, but as soon as Majnun, who was her lover, gave his pot, threw it away and broke it. And everyone started complaining, Majnun, this man. Majnun means mad, but he was mad because of love. So, why you so much love this lady? Look, she gives food to everyone, but when it comes to you, breaks your container. But Majnun said, no. You think her rejection is because she doesn't love me. But actually, why she only rejected me? Why she only threw away my pot? گرش با دیگران بود میلی چرا سبوی من بشکست لیلی. And this has mystical meaning, means suffering comes because you are chosen. You are not ordinary. So, he says here, when love comes, by drawing the attention of the lover, then the lover would no longer think about himself. He's totally focused on the beloved. Then he says, شاهد این مدعا خواهی اگر بر حسین و حالت او کن نظر. Now, if you want an example, look at Husayn and his condition. روز عاشورا در آن میدان عشق کرد رو را جانب سلطان عشق. On the day of Ashura, which was a battle of love, he says it was a battle of love. And there were two key players. Everything else was on the side. The two key players was Imam Husayn and God. The lover and the beloved. So, in that day, Husayn ibn Ali faced God, looked at God, and he said, Barilaha, in saram, in paykara, in alamdar rashidu, in akbara. Basically, he said to God, I have brought to you everything that I have. Not only I have brought you myself and I am giving you my life, I have brought my dear brothers, my children, my nephews. I have brought everything for you. Then he says, Pas khitab amad z haq, ki shah ishq, ey Husayn, ey yek taz rah ishq. Then there was a reply from God. So when he said to God that I have brought everything that I had, and this is when everyone except him and his little newborn baby, who was just 6 months old, they were left. Every man was killed except Imam Husayn and this baby, and of course there was Imam Zainul Abidin who was ill. But 72 people were martyred. So a call came from God that, O Husayn, O the one who is on this journey of love, you love me, but if you can remove the curtain, you would see I love you more than you love me. غم مخور که من خریدار توام، مشتری بر جنس بازار توام. You know, a lover has only one concern. A lover offers everything, but has one concern. Are these going to be accepted? You know, Lady Zainab, after Imam Husayn was killed, said to God, "O God, please accept from us this sacrifice. Taqabbal minna." They were not concerned about how much we have offered. No. The concern is this acceptable? This sacrifice is acceptable or not? So, God says, "Kam makhur." Don't be sad. I am going to buy whatever you have brought for me. Harche budat dade dar rah ma. Marhaba, sad marhaba, khud ham biya. You have given everything that you had, and we accept it. But now it is time that you yourself also come. But God says, خود بیا که می کشم من ناز تو، عرش و فرشم جمله پا انداز تو. I am going to put a red carpet in front of my throne for you, because you have given everything. There is a story that one of the scholars, Allami Bahrul Ulum, is very respected scholar. It is said that he was wondering why so much reward is promised to those who visit the shrine of Imam Husayn. Maybe our Christian brothers and sisters know that every year millions of Shia go to Karbala, to Iraq, and visit the shrine of Imam Husayn, especially on the 40th day after the martyrdom of Imam Husayn, which is Arba'in, which would be in about 20 days, millions of people go for pilgrimage. But throughout the year this is going on, but this is one occasion that millions of people go together. And we have many, many hadiths about reward, great reward for this. So this great alim was surprised. Why so much reward? Even in some cases, for example, we have on the day of Arafah, God first looks at the pilgrims of Imam Husayn before looking at the pilgrims in Arafat. Then he had a conversation with someone who seemed to be Imam Mahdi, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And Imam alayhi salam mentioned one example, and I'm going to finish my talks very soon with this example. And this shows loyalty and thankfulness of God. You know, in Quran, we have this concept that God is very grateful. God is not only Shakir, He is Shakur. He's very grateful. Once we had discussion with some Christian friends in Qom, and they said, we have not come across this concept of God being grateful, but they were very interested. So we have this concept that God is also grateful. So when you do something good, God is grateful. So the story that Imam, according to this story, mentioned is this. Suppose a king. There was a king who went with his people for hunting. So in the past, it was very common that kings went for hunting. Even they had sometimes special places for hunting. No one else could hunt there. So he went for hunting and saw an animal, like for example a deer or whatever, and wanted to hunt. And said to his people, leave me alone. I want to hunt by myself. So animal ran away, so he followed the animal, and then he got lost. Now he's not able to find his people. It's very far from the city. He is hungry and thirsty and is going to die. Then, after some time, finds a tenant. There is an old man and old woman inside the desert living there. So he goes there and says, I am lost. I have nothing, to eat. I have nothing to eat. I have no water, anything. This old man and woman had only one goat. They had nothing except one goat, and they were taking milk and using. They slaughtered this goat for the king, without knowing he is king, just because of hospitality. So they slaughtered the goat, made food for the king, looked after him, and he became all right, and they showed him the path. And then he said, if you anytime in future need something, come to town and ask for my name, and I will help you. After some time, because they had nothing left, they had only this goat, and they had killed the goat, sacrificed it. So they went to the city and said, come and ask me for help. So when they went to the city, they mentioned his name, said, this is the king. So they took them to the palace, and then they met the king and said, we are in need. This is the peak of the story. So the king was there and his advisors and ministers. So the king said, these two people helped me when I was starving and dying. They had one goat slaughtered for me. What should I do for them? One person said, they gave you one goat, give them one goat. One said, no, they gave one goat, but you are king, you should give them 20, 30. The king said, no. They gave me everything that they had. And if I give them everything that I have to them, I have just done justice. But they gave me without being in debt to me. I am in debt to them. So, Allamiyya Bahrul Ulum then realized why Imam Husayn is so much revered by God. Why people like Jesus are so much revered. Because they gave everything that they had to God. They didn't save something for future. Said, okay, maybe in future I need something. Everything that they had, with joy, they offered. And this then would make your relation with God another type of relation. Then God also would give you everything. God would elevate your position, and then you would be able to speak on behalf of God. You would be able to guide people towards God. You would be able to be perfect light for people to move towards God. I hope God also find us also valuable to choose us as His agents to bring light to this world and in this age. And we should be, of course, prepared to go through some sacrifice. We cannot expect everything be perfect and then we would be bringing light to the world. We need sacrifice. But I hope our sacrifice would be not in something that would affect our relation with God. Our sacrifice would be something worldly, something temporary, and in return we gain something permanent and some special relation with God. Thank you very much.